everyone. I am so glad to be back. Welcome to this week's Firesiders. I am your host, Reverend Dr. Sherry Palace. Tonight is the third time's a charm. We have tried to do this show. This will be the third time. Last time the power went out. Before then, I think it was fires or I was on my way to the hospital. So I am really excited about this show because I've been wanting to have this conversation and the universe has just went like, no. So rough start. Don't know what happened to my login or my intro, but here we go. Tonight, we are talking about the myth of white Jesus. D.T Bryant is here to discuss how we are going to destroy it, which he features in his recent book of Unless a Seed Falls to the Ground, Welcoming the Death of the Whiteness Gospel. I can't talk. I'm so out of practice here. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe. If you are anywhere else, I see one just failed, but say hi. I miss you guys. I'm glad to be back and so glad to be having this conversation. Please keep all comments and questions related to the show topic, and that remember that this is a safe space. I appreciate you. Don't forget about my book. The info is needed more than ever. The course is doing great and the speakers are phenomenal. So go check it out. We need to have more love, justice, and action, and to make this a more loving world. And I hope these sources will do it for you. Okay, let's meet our guest and get smarter. I think I have a screen to share. I do. D.T Bryant is a priest at St. Mary of Bethany Parish, a spiritual director at the Pastoral Center for Healing in Nashville, and the author of Unless a Seed Falls to the Ground, Welcoming the Death of the Whiteness Gospel. He co-founded the Black Mental Health Counselor Reparations Foundation. His passion is seeking practical, just, and merciful healing in the world and enjoying life with his wife and 4 children. What's up, Danny? How are you?
We did it. Here we are.
Did it. Well, not yet. You know,
let's see. We're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to get past like the 8-minute mark and the power not go out and leave me sitting here going.
It was pretty incredible experience.
So we're going to do it. No offense, but I really tried to get a person of color on today because I wanted to focus on Black History Month. And because of my health, because of everything that's been going on, it just kind of went to the wayside. And then I was like, you know what? Danny's the perfect thing, because I really believe that we white people have created the problem, and it is going to require we white people to solve the problem. And that means putting aside our own beliefs of supremacy, even if they're subconscious, and really trying to elevate people of color, if only that be their reparations. So I love that you're doing all of these different things out there to really show this massive group of humanity the respect that they have so long not had. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I was excited the reparations were part of it. Yeah, that's definitely
yeah. So I was like, oh my God, I can't get better than Danny, even though he's a white guy.
Jump in the deep end. Yeah.
So I'm really glad you're here. And I think that closing out Black History Month, being the only show in February that I could do, that this was important, because we need to get rid of this. So let's start again with your background and what brought you to write this book.
Yeah, so grew up in Southern California. I miss it every day and visit as often as I can. And when I was a freshman in high school, a cult that I was born into relocated 400 people from LA, Chino, so about 35 miles east of LA, to Middle Tennessee in 1993. I was a freshman in high school. A cult, a very controlling group. Clearly, if he could move 400 people across the United States, he could do a lot to us.
Right.
Controlling our life. So it was a lot of bad teaching that hurt people, bad theology, cult, and then also controlling cult. And then that experience sort of, especially reading James Baldwin, when I read The Fire Next Time, I just noticed this is what it feels like to grow up in a cult.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always important to stop here and say, I don't know what it's like to be Black in America. I don't know what it's like to be queer in America. I
Right.
don't know what it's like to
Right.
be woman in America. Like I'm not saying that, but a cult and controlling, and there are just limits. You were told you can't dream. There are things you can't be in the world because you're in this. There are people you can't marry because you're in this, and
Right.
someone's in control of everything. And so there's a line in The Fire Next Time where he's writing a letter to his nephew, and he says, you have to settle for mediocrity because of the color of your skin. And I think as I read that, I just thought, oh man, is that what it's like growing up in a cult, when you have to grow up a marginalized person in this setting. And I
So
also
let
read
me
a
let
book.
me stop you there, because one of the things that I had to grapple with, and I still go, really, that I was in a cult. When you lay out all of these things, because it's evangelicalism, right? And it's so widespread and it's so dominant that how could it be a cult? But yet it had all of the basis of being a cult. Like you said, you couldn't marry who you wanted to. You couldn't do the things. You had to do this. You had to excommunicate people. When did you realize it was a cult?
My parents, when I was in 8th grade, my parents pulled me out of the cult homeschool tutorial thing that I was part of. I was miserable. I was an only child. We weren't allowed to play sports in the cult. I loved sports. I was like one of the only people that did. I credit a lot of my salvation.
Why?
Control. It was just a thing to be in control.
Wow.
And
Okay.
yeah, they just did. And I think they said things like, people, this is so ridiculous, that adults drink beer at Little League games, so you can't play Little League, which they don't.
Right.
It's so funny how they were wrong about the things.
Yeah.
And so in that theme, being wrong about things, when my parents put me in a private Christian school and I met people who were outside of the cult, I was 13, 14 years old, but I realized, okay, they're wrong about these people. Who else are they wrong about? What else are they wrong about? And that started a 12-year process. So it was 1991 when I asked questions, 2003 when I left and really renounced it. Throughout those years, I was grappling with, how bad is this? And you're unlearning the brainwashing, and you're just encountering people, and really just that's a theme and a trajectory of mercy in my life, just continuing to ask, who are the institutions wrong about, making sure that those are places I'm going to find out, that and every time I find out that God's mercy and love and spirit are working there. I think a core of whiteness is, we're raised to believe God shows up when we speak.
Oh yeah.
So,
parking spots, football games.
Right. Yeah. Colonialism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all of it. And so to realize, oh no, God is working there long before I'm there. And I can just show up and receive or enjoy or notice what the Spirit's doing. So it's a lot of freedom in those spaces. So anyways, I don't know if that's too far away, but yeah,
No, not at all.
that trajectory, moving here to Nashville, continuing to meet people on the outside, there was even a time where I read literature about cults when I visited a church. And I remember distinctly the thought, I was probably 19 or 20, and very much had the thought, oh, I'm definitely in a cult based on this literature. And I thought, oh, the true church must be like a cult, because I was still brainwashed. I still didn't have it in it. So it was easier to accept that than that it needed to be different, or that my theology was that broken at that time.
When I started doing the research for my book about just how we got to where we were, and I studied the curse of Ham. Are you familiar with it?
Oh yeah.
I was literally, I'll never forget it. I was pacing my living room, just waving my arms and screaming, like. And for those of you who don't know about the curse of Ham, real quickly, Noah got drunk. They blamed Ham. There's all kinds of theories that Ham could have had sex with his mother or anything, but basically he saw his father pregnant. And so then all of Ham's children, Canaan, were turned to black skin and cursed, and we would know them that they were cursed by their black skin. It all originates about 6,000 years ago. I'm right on all of
That's
those, right?
what I was taught.
Yeah,
No, absolutely. That's what I was taught.
and then using that curse of Ham to perpetuate it across religions. It's one of the things that Islam uses still. But the one thing that really like broke my head was looking up Caucasian. And if you actually look up at the definition of Caucasian, people in Somalia are considered Caucasian.
Huh.
So they actually changed the definition of Caucasian to include the continent of Africa, to include Jesus. He really
I didn't know that.
goes around and is like, okay, so if we can't say that Jesus was, brown skin and all of this, so let's just make them all Caucasian. And I'm looking at this going, Somalia? Are you kidding me? So their construction was not good. It was thorough, but it was something that really needed to bolster the white supremacy. And it is one of the best things I heard, and she loves it every time I bring this up, so I'm going to keep bringing it up, was a very good friend of mine. She is a woman of color, and she said that she didn't even notice the colorism in her black church until she read my book and was able to point things out. I think that the black churches are some of the highest proponents of white supremacy. And so I think that in the mode of what your book is doing is dispelling that myth. Hopefully it will get to the black churches before, along with the process, because I'm constantly telling people of color who believe this, get up off your knees, do this, because that's always a submission toward those types of things. Where did you find in the gospel, or rewriting it, per the title of your book, where this stuff was done and how it perpetuates?
It's interesting. As you were talking about that, it reminds me of just how the rules are always changing to make sure the power stays where it is. You were talking about Caucasian and just the rules. I think we had such a high false morality in the group, right? Like don't play Little League, or don't go to movies, or there's what you can wear. So, and as I got older, I realized there's a high view, again, a kind of morality that had nothing to do with morality, but there were no ethics. Like, it was so
right.
Even the first question, like, it was when we moved to Nashville and the sexual abuse started to emerge that had happened in so many of our lives at the same time. And we saw that covered up, and we heard stories of how it had been covered up. So the hypocrisy was just, it couldn't be missed. I mean, because it was a cult, it was missed, and people did choose the abusers and the system over the people who had been hurt. But waking up to that and seeing how the system always changes the rules for itself. Jamar Tisby, are you familiar with his work?
No.
He wrote The Color of Compromise. He's got a podcast, and one time, it was when Jay-Z was hired by the NFL to do like the cleanup work after the Colin Kaepernick things were happening. And Jamar Tisby said on his podcast, I hope Jay-Z remembers, the systems change you, you don't change the systems. And so that space to just always be aware of what is the system asking from me that would take away my dignity, and what is the system asking of me that would take away someone else's, and to be fiercely committed to always holding on to human dignity. Again, even our own, like, these systems aren't good for us either. That's a theme throughout the book, is just each of the steps in my evolution were more exposure of how at the core of this thing is a cancerous lie. And it's what the Pilgrims landed here with. We can start over, be in charge. And as long as we're in charge, everything will be okay, which is the height of whiteness. Right. And it's always connected to, we're better than what we left. We're recovering a purity. And look at this, free land. There's always an ownership component that really, I think, is what it's all about. W.E.B. Du Bois talks about whiteness being the ownership of all the earth forever and ever. Amen. And it just steamrolls creation, saying, oh, we don't want to be in charge. It's hard. You don't know how hard it is to carry this. pressure, right? But we need the land.
It's so
And so,
hard. We have to sit on our asses and watch everybody else work and build this country. I mean, talk about the lie. It's just, there's so many different things that are built into this supremacy, and we see it even in modern day with the people of color being in the majority of sports. And I hear the white supremacists go, well, we bred you to do that. It goes back to the slave days and to that supremacy. And still, if the white man says, well, we bred you to do that, which is the most disgusting thing everyone would ever say, they still take ownership of that. They still take it and say, well, then I am responsible as a white person for you being stronger, and then use it, twist it up and go, well, that's why I'm afraid of you. That's why I have to shoot you.
Yeah, the whole system. Another friend here in Nashville recently he wrote a book called White Property, Black Trespass, which deals with, he's an abolitionist of the police and prison, and he's one of the most gentle people you'll ever meet. And I highly recommend his book. His name's Andrew Cranks. But yeah, just how all of it is designed to keep power where it is, and to keep where the power is not under oppression, under rule, in prison, in poverty. It's cruel. It's a cruel system. And like we said at the beginning, I really do believe it's a cult. And I would, so that even the inspiration for the book, Willie James Jennings is a favorite scholar of mine. And I got to ask him one time, is this white Christian nationalist movement, is it already dead? And it's a zombie and it's mindlessly consuming everything in its path? Or is it dying? And if it's dying, could it be convinced to enter into a hospice season where it dies with dignity and reallocates the resources that have been built on the backs of people? And so that's one of the reparations.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me stop you there. Why would you want it die with dignity when it has been so traumatic and so offensive to so many people?
For me, it's the following Jesus for me is always looking for the nonviolent way forward.
Okay.
So I use hospice.
Put in my place. I will take
that. No. Okay.
I'll take it because that's my message too. But someone said today, there was a thing on Facebook where they said, we have to love our enemies, and I'm like, no, I punch Nazis.
It's
really hard to,
I'm not. Yeah, man, no judgment, and but I think hospice is saying. And the book uses cancer as a metaphor for how it's spread everywhere. And this lie that replicates, it metastasizes. And so it's a brutal truth. A friend who read it, he called it deadly serious. And it is. I mean, it's like,
good.
This is dead. Willie Jennings' answer to that question, he said it's got enough money to pretend it's alive. Just brutal honesty, but so true. And so if we could say the person keeps the dignity, not the movement.
There we go. Okay. I'm totally with that. Okay.
So, right. So we
now I understand. Dignity. Okay.
Nothing. No mercy for whiteness.
Yeah.
Starve it out. Right. Like no treatment, no chemo. Just let it die. Let's accept this is over and pay reparations. Man, our church started the reparations initiative to pay student loan debt of Black therapists as repentance for what we've been part of.
I love that.
And that became a foundation called the Black Mental Health Counselor Reparations Foundation. And even as we end Black History Month, there's a campaign. Our website is bmhcr.org. And we're on our Instagram account updating it this month, sharing pioneering African-American mental health professionals. So visit our Instagram, check out those pioneers. And then, we would love to give. We do scholarships, we do supervision grants for mental health counselors, and we do student loan debt. So really, even that, the joy of that, the friendships in that, like it's a joyful repentance. It's a hospice. Let's find the life and let's give this stuff away that our movement stole from people.
So how do you feel with a white supremacist being in the most powerful position in the planet, with Trump being in office at this point, and literally a South African apartheid child right beside him? How are you dealing with that?
It is just, it's a weird combination of disbelief and of of course. It's who we've been since the beginning. One of the points I make in the book is that the cult that I grew up in still exists. It's a much gentler version. I think, it's what makes them still feel like a cult to me is they haven't really dealt past tangibly. They haven't really repented to the people that it hurt the most. And the person who's now the leader is the son-in-law of the son-in-law of my cult leader when I was a kid. Meaning, I think one of the things that indicates is it still exists for who it was built for. And I think that when we look at the United States and its founding and the Pilgrims and the mowing down indigenous people and Manifest Destiny, which Schoolhouse Rock calls elbow room, which is such a great tell on itself unintentionally. But it still exists. It was built for Donald Trump. It was built for the wealthy landowner. It was built for the criminal who wouldn't look at what was really going on. And I think, again, the argument in the book is the cancer is so spread. It's everywhere. And men like Donald Trump are miracle cures, celebrity cures. It's like desperate attempts at healing something that there's no hope for. So it's heartbreaking. And also, yeah, of course, this is who's in charge. I think I was an American history major in college, and those were the times when I was really starting to see it for the first time. Like, oh, we're not the good guys. There's a chapter in the book called Mr. White, We're the Bad Guys, which comes from Breaking Bad. It's a line in Breaking Bad. But until we accept that, I don't have much hope. And the funding to pretending we're alive that's willing to be so cartoonish, so clownish, and then ultimately so cruel. I don't know. Like, I don't know how bad it's.
Well, every country only lasts about 250 years, and we're at 249. Yeah. But I think that one of the major problems with the U.S. is the Peter principle, right? That you are elevated to the least of your functions, I think is the way it goes. It's mediocrity, like we started to talk in the beginning of the show. And not only does the racism affect and punish the people of color on any type of color spectrum outside of whiteness, but it also hurts white people because the lie of supremacy, when they realize they're not better than their Black neighbor, or they're not better than their Mexican neighbor, or someone that they know, their insecurities double. Their feeling of rage increases. Why am I such a piece of shit when, I'm supposed to be the best one there? So the lie not only affects all of the marginalized, but also the insecurity of the white men that we are trying to also diminish, because that insecurity propels people like Trump. I really
ignorance. Believe, and then a kind of penal substitutionary atonement gets into that space, and people are told the way to be loved by God is to be shameful. And I think there's a shame addiction in this, where it knows fundamentally it's not superior. It feels guilty, even on a precognitive level. We know we carry the image of God. We know when we're not living in integrity. And I think that shame so perfectly funnels into go to church, feel bad about yourself. That's how you're loved. There's a line in the book about Reformed theology where I say it's lawyer theologians on the cusp of unimaginable wealth who developed a theology that said, it's not our fault. God has a thing for rich white people. And I think that's the core. That's what built this. And until we deal with that lie, and again, even get over the shame of it, like that's another reason for the hospice invitation, is to say, let's create space where you can be honest about it. And like Desmond Tutu in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee that says, if you tell the truth, you'll be absolved. But you have to tell the truth because we have to deal with this. Until America will look at itself in the mirror, I don't have much hope. James Baldwin, you talk about how it is to white people too. He has an essay called "On Being White and Other Lies." Stunning. I mean, it's just one of those like gut punches. It's so true. But he says, I tremble for the leaders of white communities because there is in fact no such thing as white community.
Right.
And he's writing about what you're talking about, where the insecurity of not being who we say we are splinters all these groups. And he calls it the price of the ticket. Each group that comes to the United States, the price of the ticket is to become white. And the closer you are to the pigmentation of the white skin, the easier time you have assimilating, or at least appearing to assimilate.
Okay, and this makes my head explode because historically speaking, white people are a virus. And I mean, there were civilizations all over the world for thousands of years. And then the white man came in and destroyed it and conquered it and did all of these things. So because, the only supremacy that we actually have has been in our efforts to kill, maim, rape, do all of these things and destroy the planet in the process. But hey, let's go to Mars. We are not, historically speaking, we are not suited for goodness. I mean, when Trump was reelected, I reached out to my mentor and I'm like, I don't know how we break this. It's been 10,000 years and we still can't get it right. We still can't choose goodness over evil. How? And I got to the point where I told her, and I think we started to talk about this before the power went out. I went down to the very cell of us. It's like, okay, I want to be that one cell that fights that cancer. I want to be that cell that says it's not okay for this cancer to be here. To get those, immune system building up, to have these types of things, because when you break it all the way down to the cellular level, it's all destructive. And we're not learning. We're not learning. We are still just, these people, cavemen with amphibian brains with technology. And feeling that was so overwhelming because it made me hopeless. It made me go like, this is just us and we just suck. I don't want to.
I live on that. I live on the border of despair.
Right?
A friend of mine who is a musician and he's in med school, his name's Jay Lind. He was given a grant by Princeton University to spend time in hospice care and be with people as volunteer and then write an album about it. Beautiful work. But he and I were talking one day, and his, again, medical school and artist, just his ability to live in metaphor and science.
Yeah.
I don't know many people like him, but he said cancer at its most basic essence is a cell that refuses to die. It says, I'm not part of the body. No, I am the body. And then it recruits other cells to that body. And then we were both just like, oh, that's it. Like you're saying, that's whiteness. That's the United States. That's this cancer that replicates. And until this is fascinating. I helped a friend with her grad school project where she's trying to, she'd be a good guest too. Her book, I think she turned in her manuscript like today or this week, but she's trying to get us away from the shepherd metaphor. I mean, not that she's like, has a problem with that so much, but she wants pastoring to be more in the midwife metaphor than shepherding, which beautiful work. But I got to spend like 10 weeks in a row with a midwife, just listening to her talk about her week. And she said, I want to again say, I'm quoting a woman who does this. I'm not saying this. I'm just repeating what she told me. She said there are two demographics of women who almost never are able to have the baby at home. She can predict they're going to have to go to the hospital, and it's white evangelicals and Mormons. And she said they can't get in their bodies enough to have a baby. And when I worked with hospice professionals,
that is huge.
It's huge. And then when they said when older white Christian men, especially if they had been in the military, when it comes to time to die, they can't get in their bodies enough to die. Whiteness doesn't live in its body. It hates having a body. It hates being a body. There's a shame in this, in the DNA of this whole thing. So that cancer thing to like say, I'm going to stop saying I'm not part of this, even my own body, as a way to get back into belonging to the family.
Don't you think that has to do with the innate shame that religion teaches? If perhaps if we were taught as children to love ourselves because we are divine creations. I mean, no one hates God's creation more than evangelical Christians. It cracks me up.
No.
I mean, everything they hate this planet, they hate the animals, they hate LGBTQ. I mean, everybody outside of their little tiny cancerous thing.
But even that, we've been on the inside. There's not love there either at the end of the day. And even self-hatred. I mean, the self-loathing is maybe huge. The machine for the whole thing.
Yeah. And it adds to the insecurities. I mean, when I started studying years ago, how babies interact, there was a huge, I got it from Oprah. I'll be honest. Yeah. She had a show on listening to babies' cries and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my God, I never knew there was such a thing. But in processing all of this, our insecurities start very, very young. Everything that we are trying to do and to grow and to be a part of life, when we cry and we're not tended to, that builds an insecurity, that builds a fear. Most of our insecurities and fears come between 3 and 5 years old. They, of course, develop and groom and stuff like that onwards. But a lot of our insecurities about who we are and our surroundings are still done in childhood, probably perpetuated by religion. But how do we start? I mean, I know one woman, she's a woman, not a girl, that I have looked at her and went, holy crap, that's what self-esteem looks like. One. And now, I mean, now she's changed her whole life. And I just like, this is what I'm talking about, I don't know how to overcome that because I was never taught that. I was taught that I was a piece of shit, and I readily, okay, that's what I am.
No. And again, it's in that formula. It's the way to receive the love. Say you're a piece of shit. There's another line in the book that 50 Shades of Grey has nothing on 50 Shades of Jesus. We think he's Christian Grey. We think he's this sadist that wants us to be in these, undignifying ways of life. And when we admit we're shit, that's when the love comes, and that's going to perpetuate, and that's going to get even weirder as it metastasizes. And no, it's bleak. I mean, it's addiction. It really is an addiction. I think just seeing people being attached to the shame instead of, coming alive to, no, I have a God-given lovableness and a God who delights in humanity, and so much that he wanted to become one, not because he wasn't like, oh, I'll go to the manger because I'm a masochist. He was like, that's where I want to be. I want to be with the shepherds. I want to, not I have to, because I choose the hardest thing, because that's the only thing that makes, me want God happy. It's so sadistic at its core.
It is.
And which back to Trump, which the cruelty is the sadism. It's such a tightly wound knot.
And then coupled with prosperity gospel, it makes the white rich person, because it's not people of color, because that was proven with Obama. Obama like broke every rule, Harvard journalist, all of these things, but he was still the Antichrist. But I
think Trump, we are living in the narcissistic rebound of the regret of the system for letting a non-white wealthy man become
the punishment
until we, even the question earlier about where are you in it, the day after the election, it was like disbelief that we chose this again. And also oh, when has America ever been good to Black women? Like,
right.
How did I let myself think we wouldn't do this again? And how in the world did we do this again? It's so disorienting.
Okay, so now that I'm totally depressed, I was very happy when we started the show. How do we fix it? I mean, your book, my book, we have these books these people don't read. How they want to be taught, they want to be pastoralized, they want to be told what to think. I think that's where my deconstruction started, when I was like, whoa, I'm thinking now, and this doesn't make any sense. Once I stopped taking it all in and taking it for, what it's worth, and I'm still unraveling shit still.
Yeah, of course.
That I didn't even know was implanted, but it is.
But even that is the joy of being a human. Like the whiteness tells us that there is this thing to be and it's finished. And the joy of like not knowing everything and learning together to have a conversation. Like we don't know, we've known each other, I guess for over a month, if we go back.
You and I go way back at this point.
But yeah, like it's you can meet somebody and just talk and learn and not be there to dominate. And that's like, it's just the joy of being a human being.
Well, I propose in my book that the opposite of love is ego.
Yeah.
And that the only time that we can grow in love and justice and that type of thing is when we use our ego for good. I propose that we start getting into competitions like we did back in the 40s and 50s for building libraries and schools and all of these things. You want to need your ego boosted, go help somebody.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of people are too afraid to do that. A lot of people don't have the time, the desire, too self-absorbed. But that is the way out of any of this indoctrination, is just to literally just stop and think for a moment. My first thing was when I was 14 and I was like, my best friends are pure and wonderful. Why would they go to hell because they don't believe in you? But in the same sermon, the guy said, again, it seems so crazy, but it literally in the same sermon, he said, there's no aliens because God wouldn't send his son to die twice. And I went, yes.
No, I mean, how adamant the cult leader was that there were no dinosaurs. Like he was like so anti-aliens or dinosaurs. And you look back on that stuff and you're like, why? Like, I mean, I get it. You believe that, but like, why did it matter so much?
Because they aren't in the Bible. Yeah. I mean, I hate being wrong still. Let me just put that out there. I get flush, my stomach drops out. Oh my God, I don't want to be wrong. But I'm also on the other side, fully okay with being ignorant, with being like, I don't know this. I don't know, what's going on. Teach me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a society that demonizes thinking, education,
shames ignorance, right? It shames not knowing. It shames wonder. It shames curiosity. Yeah.
I mean, and I am a more loving person outside of religion. I am a more wonder person outside of religion. And I still look at things and go, God, I love what you've done with this.
Yeah.
But without the indoctrination, without the restrictions, like Jesus, it's like, okay, Jesus said, get out of the church, tear down these things, stop being this way. And yet these are the people who claim to follow Jesus are doing this. I have this theory that we all died in 2012 and this is all like hell or something.
I'd be lying if I said I hadn't thought about it.
Oh my God. I mean, even like this stuff with my back, it's like, this is more convincing. I got out of the car after being rejected and everything. And I get out of the car and I see a license plate that's 666. I looked at my girlfriend. I'm like, I told you, we're in hell. We're seeing these signs everywhere. It has to be. It can't be. This is our reality.
It wild that feels more believable than what we're actually living in. No, I get it. I mean, how is this still happening? And yeah, I mean, just like you would think there would be a day where you'd be like, okay, let's take a day off. Let's try to not be a little bit worse today, but nope.
Yeah. I mean, I told you before the show, I haven't had a good day this year until yesterday. I mean, with everything going on with my body, the fires, all of it's just been an insane year. And we're only like, 45 days into it?
Yeah.
So how do we fix this? I'm a person that likes to fix things.
Yeah.
I like to do things to make things better. What do we do?
There was an irony to the last little bit that I was in the cult. I was only there because I was convinced I could help people change.
And savior complex still gets me.
Oh, buddy, right? And so I had a counselor who said, it will look like it's changing, but it's a rubber band and it's always going to snap back to what it is. And I finally left when the sexual abuse stuff came out and there was no repentance. And even when I got married and when I met my wife, I told her, I go to a terrible church, but I think I can change it. And I love the people. And she visited with me for the first time and she was like, it's a cult. And I was like, I know it's a cult, but I love the people and I think we can change it. And then when we got married, we were still like kind of trying to change it. And the first time we talked about having kids, I was like, my kids aren't going anywhere near this place. So that was like, and I didn't even have kids for another 3 years, but I knew I'm not doing this. And so it was when I left and showed people you can serve Jesus and not be part of this, other people started leaving. I'm not saying I'm the only impetus to that change or that.
No, but that was light.
It was part of people's journey to see, oh, they're wrong. I saw they were wrong about, my friend Greg. They saw they were wrong about me. And so as those things happen, which leads me in the context of Black History Month, Malcolm X, who is saying, hey, we're not going to appeal to thoughts. We're not going to appeal to the goodness of the whites at the lunch counter. Malcolm X says, we're going to build something.
Right.
And then they have to argue with data instead of ideas. So I think building things, the Reparations Foundation, that is is white America ever going to get super excited about reparations? I hope so, but it's going to be a minute. But I wanted data. Argue with the data of reparations, not the idea of reparations.
Right.
And since we've done that and taken that step, there's data of reconciliation. There are friendships that came through the repentance. So I think the more that we put, and even the hospice metaphor, the more that we fund quality of life for everyone, rather than miracle cures like Trump, there's this hope. And then we can point to the data and say, argue with that. And do you see anything in that you would like to have? There's a poem in the book about the reparations chapter, and the reparations. Sorry, I love the name of that chapter. It's called Ecclesial Reparations. If you've got two coats, don't start a nonprofit. Because part of whiteness is it learns something new and files a 501c3, and somebody's been doing it for 200 years. Join. But that chapter ends with a poem that the first participant in the reparations initiative wrote, and she asked the two women who were part of the loan debt through the church being paid. Both of them asked, "Is this real?" And just to ask the question, when is that question asked in racial justice? Is it real? Is Donald Trump really president? Is it real? Did Elon do the Nazi salute? But is it real to be wonder of what can be? That's exciting. That's joyful. And that's data. So I think the way forward is not holding the dignity of the people, which I think Malcolm X did, while building something and then saying, hey, I'm not going to argue with you. Argue with this. Jesus says it. He goes, judge me how you want to judge me, but mostly just look at the work.
Right.
And I think to take that stance, to follow your friend, the friend that you talked about, the self-esteem, that's data. You look at that and you think there's something there, something I want. I think building those things is possible. It's hard. Howard Thurman, Jesus and the Disinherited, he writes. And so that book was in Dr. King's briefcase when he was killed at the Lorraine Motel. Howard Thurman says, you haven't really understood Jesus until you've understood him with those whose backs are against the wall. So for us to leave the privilege and go stand with those whose backs are against the wall, and to see who Jesus is there and how Jesus holds on to the dignity there, that to me is, again, I'm repeating myself, but that's the data that is there. We just need to move toward it.
Well, and we have historical references that also show that just given any type, just removing our foot off of their necks will enable their success. We have the Tulsa massacre. We have Black Wall Street. That anytime that we have allowed or something to that effect, people of color to actually flourish, they do so brilliantly. They do so extraordinarily, which also feeds into the white insecurity and inferiority complex, and for them to scream superiority because it's all fake. So
And
it's
it
like,
knows, right? It knows. I
yeah.
believe with all my heart, things like Donald Trump's hair and orange dust, whatever that is, I really think that is the image of God in him saying, I know I'm a clown. I don't know if he can access that, but I really believe, and I think I'm saying that because of his dignity. There's something
You're
in
giving
everyone.
him the benefit of the doubt.
If I don't, I'm not doing. I just to let go of anyone's dignity, and I think even that comes through the abuses that I suffered and how they tried to take my dignity, and to let them they take mine if I don't see theirs. In a sense, I'm not saying you have to think that, but that's
Right.
an internal code I need to be in place to feel even empowered, ironically. But yeah, like to just say like, hey, the orange stuff, you wouldn't have to do that anymore if you quit being a clown. Come back, get in your body, listen to people, and use all the money you've got to do some good. Like be remembered for something good.
Right.
And
Because get that ego going for good.
yeah,
You know,
like have some
you ended
real
child
self-esteem.
poverty. Did something, but the dehumanization is worldwide at this point. I
Yeah.
was literally knocked off my chair last week when I heard Jerry Seinfeld say Gaza people don't mean anything to me. And I was like, holy shit, he said it out loud. That, so it's not only in our country, it's the Ukraines, it's, all of this white power coming through and saying we're just going to own everything. Resistance. I can't believe I'm gonna have to march again. I can't believe I have to scream again, but I won't stop. I won't stop. I have one Black grandchild and one white grandchild. Actually, they're both Black, but the way that they present is, and I know that they're going to live two different lives. I know that one is going to be far more risk of safety than the other one. And so I can't have that dichotomy to be treated in my own family. And it was my grandson that forced me to write this book because the church started to do the same thing to him. That is where I go, okay, this is, now I'm old, bad hip, all of this stuff. I'm going to still fight, if only from my bed and being a keyboard warrior, but I can't. The love that I want to emulate makes me speak up. But I also know that a lot of people are so fucking lazy that they won't ask those questions. They don't want to know the answers. They don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And maybe they're there for us to be taught lessons as to not be. But the frustration just gets me. I can't have this life for my grandchildren. I can't have this uncertainty and this bigotry for them. It's just gross. It's just absolutely gross to me. So I've been asking, are you familiar with Wild Goose?
Yes.
This year at Wild Goose, I was subconsciously, didn't really get it till about the fourth day in, but I really wanted to know the meaning of love. Because I think that part of our problem is that, like you said, the meaning of love tends to be traumatic or abusive. Like, I was taught after getting spankings every day that they loved me and they had to spank me for doing so, for talking too much. I've had some wonderful answers. What we came up with at the Wild Goose was empathy. Empathy is truly what love is. But now I ask every show what it means to you. How can you define love to where it's not a bad thing? It's a good thing.
Yeah. Man, that is
I'll help you. I really got from you that it was dignity. And that's, Josh said wanting them to flourish. I've had some great answers, but you have said dignity so many times.
I think the word like to associate even with the dignity is courage. I think love is it's the courage and the conviction that, even connected to that dignity, that is, I hesitate to tell the story, but I'm going to. I was actually I was a teacher at the Covenant School the first 10 years here in Nashville, where the shooting happened 2 years ago, and
oh wow,
I'm close to that, and people involved. And a friend whose son goes there told me a few days ago that he found something his son had written, and he, 6 victims that day, 3 teachers and 3 children, 3 students. And this little boy who was there that day, who hid in a room, like, who was terrified, who had to be evacuated. And even that, I have to add, because of the actions of somebody I love, who I knew as a little girl. A little boy wrote about her, and about that day, 7 lives were lost. And for a little boy to say, really, what the unspeakable, there was another life that day that did something unspeakably evil, like, that there's no justification for, and she was loved. That a little child sees that dignity for somebody that did that, I think that's, like, just incredible courage, and just such an example of love. Since his dad told me that, it's just, I can't stop thinking about it. But just that courage to say, I won't let go.
I tell the story in my book of the Amish mass shooter, and how the Amish community went and fed the widow, went to the shooter's funeral, just completely surrounded the family. Any donations that were given, I get goosebumps just thinking about it again. Any donations were passed on to the widow, and the widow of the shooter, to be very clear, the widow of the shooter who killed 6 beautiful children, and how they really said, they are also victims. And that is love in action to me. That is truly superior. That is, the amount of love that we should share. I don't know that I've been tested, and there have been times I've been really proud of myself to go, no, I walked in love. I did the right thing, and I have examples to prove it. But I also have a million where I failed too, because we're still human. Yeah. And the only thing, and I just dawned on, I just remembered yesterday, I remembered that my parents had the bumper sticker, "Not perfect, just forgiven."
Oh yeah.
Superiority complex 101,
We were told, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. We were told we had to be morally perfect to be saved. So we made fun of Christians who had that bumper sticker because we were better than them, because we were perfect. So yeah. Oh my God. Sorry to interrupt you.
We're all just spoiled children wanting to be dad's favorite.
Yeah.
It's really what it all boils down to.
Which reminds me of that story where the woman says to Jesus, even the dogs get the crumbs. And I think of, at our dinner table, the dog finds the most sloppy eating child who's, and I think that the invitation to just be that kid who is, like, so confident and in love, and the next bite that it's spilling on the ground for the dogs. And just the mercy that's available, the joy, the love, and to commit to that with we have our Substack for the church where I work. We named it Stubborn Mercy, because we are all pretty stubborn people. But I think it can be a tenacious love. Psalm 23, goodness and mercy are more tenacious than anything else in the world. So that's a long answer, but that's
I love that. And one of the things that I am doing to make sure that I am not becoming that which I hate is really checking myself to say, if they were hurting, would I stop and help? And making sure that I was still, that compassion could be for my enemies. That I wouldn't be one of those who stepped over a dying body or something to that effect, or cheered them on. but that I would still help them. That is where I go, okay, I'm not far off track. I'm still walking in love. This is still my focus. I am far from perfect. I am only human, but at least I know that that's the focus now, not salvation, not, recruiting people, all of these, weird human things that we have added to love, just focusing on the love and how that is defined. Because if you look at a mother who has just disowned their child for being gay, she will swear that she loves them.
Yeah, they'll say because, right? I'm doing this because
right. So so that's why I thought it was really important to say, okay, what is love? What is, and it's the reality of the situation right now. It's being present. And
it really is like it's loving ourselves too. It is holding on. We don't let go of our own dignity either.
Right.
So healthy boundaries that'll say, no, we're not going to do that. And I love you, but yeah, that permission, I hear it in your work, and we have dignity too. And that's the Howard Thurman, that's what Jesus offers those whose backs are against the wall. Like nobody can take your dignity. Is that you or me?
That was my thought. I've got three.
There's so many things around here. I just assume.
There's a little boy in the neighborhood named Noble, and my dog is his favorite thing in the world. He's autistic. And so he always comes over and goes, "What's up, dogs?" Yeah.
Freedom.
So yeah, that was him at the door, and my dog was like, "Yeah." Okay, well, we are at the top of the hour. We did it. We did it. This has been a fabulous conversation, and it was definitely worth the wait. I am so glad we had this conversation. I think we should continue on with a couple more. But where can people find you, and any final words?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, first of all, I really appreciate you letting me be here. It's great to talk and to get to know you. I'm looking forward to getting more acquainted with your work too. And so spaciouslistening.com is my website. I do spiritual direction. The book is there. The book is available on Amazon. It's called Unless a Seed Falls to the Ground, Welcoming the Death of the Whiteness Gospel. That's
actually, here we go.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit, hold on.
Is that Noble?
Yeah, that's Noble. I'll have to tell his mom that he got on the show today. My grandson was on at one point too. He kept wanting me to play it because he kept calling me on the phone. But as soon as this loads, it's a picture of your book and where it is.
Great.
Sorry about that. Yes. Go get the book, obviously.
Yeah, those are, and then because of, we've talked about Black History Month and repenting for whiteness, bmhcr.org, bmhcr.org, or Instagram, bmhcr. That's our reparations foundation. And gosh, we would love for people to give. The money goes directly to loan debt, supervision grants, and scholarship for Black mental health counselors.
It's fantastic.
And it is easy. In terms of something that's just easily accessible, easy to do, and then to have data to talk about. It's an easy thing. Every dollar goes to those things. We don't have overhead. It's just it's a very, it can do a lot with a little.
Fantastic.
Those are the things
I guess I'd like to highlight. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the spot right now and tell you that I need you to send me all of the links of the authors and everything, and then I will post it on the YouTube page and all of that so people can get smarter and educate ourselves to really kill this cancer off. It needs to go.
Let it die.
Thank you so much, Danny. This has truly been a great show. I knew it was going to be worth it. I'm going to send you backstage and close it off.
All right. Thanks.
You don't have anything else to say, right?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Go buy his book, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye. And I don't even know how to get you off right now. Let me see. Let's see. This damn thing. I'm so out of. Okay. Well, you know what? You can just sit here while I finish the show. I'm good.
It's like we had Letterman. Yeah, you just
another fantastic show. Thank you all for watching and joining. My dogs are telling me the show's over. I love you all. I will see you next week. And as hard as I know it is right now, Walk in love. Mwah. See you next week.
Bye.
And I don't know how to close it. Oh, no. Boy, this new app is so bad. We're going to do a bloopers off of this soon.
Yeah. Reminds me of doing church, like worship during COVID.
Oh, here we go. I know, right? I used to sign on and I would attend churches and just laugh at them. I'm doing it now. Okay, I got it.
Giving you plenty. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I will see you guys all next week. Mwah! Bye.